Hi, I want to show you a quick little side dish that you can add to your Christmas or your Thanksgiving turkey. It's Brussels sprouts with an added little surprise. I was never keen on Brussels sprouts when I was a kid. They were always kind of boiled or steamed or something, and they tasted mushy and bitter. But then I discovered roasted Brussels sprouts in the oven, and oh boy, are they ever good. Last month I saw this picture of Brussels sprouts with grapes roasted in the oven. Sounded interesting, and I gave it a try, and it's really good. So I've thrown together a little recipe, not exactly a recipe, just some instructions on how to do this. And I think you'll find they make a good little added side dish to any meal. I like to use my cast iron skillet to do this, but you could do it on a cookie sheet if you want. It would depend on how much you were making and for how many people. And the first thing to do is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. I put the skillet in as well and let it heat up while the oven's heating up. While the oven's heating up, you can assemble your ingredients. It's pretty simple. You need Brussels sprouts, some salt, some pepper, some purple seedless grapes, a clove or two of garlic, some olive oil, and a couple of strips of bacon. You can change the quantities and mix these according to how you like them or for how many people you want to make the vegetable to serve. Now I've washed the Brussels sprouts and cut the coarse ends off the bottom of them, and I'm just going to chop them up now, cutting them basically in half. You can leave some of them if they're smaller, you can leave them whole, or you can cut them in half. I think they cook a little bit better if they're in half. And the other thing is, don't throw out the little leaves because they'll cook up really nicely and be crunchy. Then I'll slice the garlic into little pieces. You can use 1 or 2 pieces of garlic. Depends how much you want. This is a fairly big clove, so I'm just going to use the 1. And I've washed and dried a bunch of grapes. How much you use is totally up to you, and the combinations, whatever you like. I tend to use about the same amount of grapes as I use in the Brussels sprouts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw all this stuff into the little bag that the Brussels sprouts came in from the grocery store. And I'll add some salt, pepper, and olive oil, and just let the flavors get together. So a little bit of olive oil, maybe a tablespoon, some sea salt, maybe half a teaspoon, and some fresh ground pepper. Put that together. Mix it all together so that the Brussels sprouts and the grapes are all coated both with the spices and with the olive oil. Then I'll cut up the bacon into little strips. I use about 2 strips of bacon or 2 pieces of bacon with this, and I find cutting it up with scissors is the easiest way to do it. And I'm going to throw this on the top of the Brussels sprouts when I've put them into the pan. Once again, if you're a vegetarian, you don't need to add this, but I find it makes it a little more tasty. So the oven's preheated and the vegetables are prepared. I'm just going to take the cast iron pan out of the oven. Now, you got to be careful when you're using a cast iron pan because it gets very, very hot. And so always remember to use an oven mitt. I've mistakenly tried to pick it up at some time because it looks like it's just a pan, and I burned my fingers, so just be really careful with that. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of olive oil into the pan so things don't stick too much. I'll mix that around the bottom of the pan, so it's just, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. You don't really want to be frying it, but at the same time you need to make sure it doesn't stick. Then I'm going to dump all everything into the pot. Mix it up a little bit. Add the bacon on the top. the oven's at 400 degrees. I'm going to pop it in. It'll cook for about 40 minutes. Halfway through, I'll pull it out and I'll stir it up a little bit just to mix things up. But I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes and my Brussels sprouts are cooked. Let's see how they look. Look pretty good. Only one thing left to do. I'm going to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar because I think this sort of sparks it up a little bit. Smells good. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of goat cheese that I crumble up on the top. This will all melt into the Brussels sprouts. And once again, you don't have to use bacon if you're a vegetarian, but you could use the cheese. And I find this to be a really good vegetable dish to serve along with anything. And to tell you the truth, I often have it just by itself with some nice fresh homemade bread. Enjoy.